Hello and welcome everyone, this is Calebovitsch coming to you with another episode of Deck Check. Shadows of the Spire is upon us. The newest mini expansion in Eternal card game has brought 23 cards that fill every Johnny's heart with glee. This is an expansion filled to the brim with cards that are cool build-arounds, combo pieces, etc. One of them is a Xenon spell called Spire Shadows that swaps the, wait for it, attack value and cost of all units in your deck. Now, this could only lead to many shenanigans, right? Right. But what if you go on top and over that and include Witching Hour and Evenhanded Golem? What's that? Even Spire Hour? It is time for the next deck check. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Even Spire Hour in the Throne format. Now, this deck has three main things going for it, but the biggest one is the new addition from Shadow of the Spire called Spire Shadows. And this is such a tongue twister that my first version of the deck was called Spire Shadows of the Spire, but it was a different version altogether, and there are several things you can do with this card. Now, this is a 2-cost Xenon spell, and I don't know who designed it, but the design of this one is perfect because it turns the cards upside down and sideways around, not in a way you would expect it, because you get to swap the attack value and cost of each unit in your deck. Not the usual attack and defense, but attack and cost. So that means all the cards that you thought were overcosted now are very good and cost efficient, and oh my goodness, where were they all these years? On the other hand, all the overstated time units get nerfed. So if you're playing with Spire Shadows, you can play as their base, obviously, at maximum fair units, like Mystic Ascendant. But aside from that, you want to be running cards you wouldn't usually be running. And that is the best thing about build-around cards. If Spire Shadows allows you to utilize a ton of cards that you previously did not think of running, not only in Throne, but in Draft as well, like Dune Phantom. I mean, I did not run it that often in Draft, maybe once in a blue moon if I drafted it. So there you have it. Now, this makes, for example, Aurelian Merchant into a 0-cost 3/3, so a Sand Warrior, but with 2 upsides of +1 max power, and you get to choose to swap a card from your hand with a time card in your market. Or Azindel, the Wayfinder, you remember before he was revealed, the 0-cost 4/5 double Xenon Mystic. Anyway, so that is what Spire Shadows does. It turns everything on its head. First thing people thought about when they saw Spire Shadows was, hey, if we run Evenhanded Golems, the 2-cost 2/2 Golem with Voidbound that says summon, if you have no odd cost cards in your deck, draw 2 cards. So the biggest thing going for Evenhanded Golem when it comes to deck design, deck building, is that you couldn't be running merchants or smugglers because all of them cost 3. Now, the funny thing about all these Xenon merchants and smugglers is that if you swap their stats with Spire Shadows, you have a 0-cost, a 2-cost, and a 2-cost. So Spire Shadows allows you to play Even-handed Golem decks with a market, with a full market, not only bargain, but a fully fledged market. And that is why you see 4 Even-handed Golems here, despite the very strange looking Even-handed Golem deck power curve, with a ton of 3s and some 5s as well here. So there is that. So if you play Spire Shadows and you have Even-handed Golems in your deck, then you have to build this deck with 2 restrictions in mind. All your non-units still have to be even costed, as you can see, 2, 6, and 24s. But also, when you're looking at units, you don't look at their costs, you look at their attack values. So when you look at their attack values, after Spire Shadows swaps everything, it is 2, 0, 0, 0, 2, 2, 0, 2, and 4, which is all even, okay? So there is that. Another thing about Spire Shadows is that this is a card that is strange when it comes to combo pieces, because it is a card you only want to cast once, not twice. Second copy of Spire Shadows is really not serving you any good, because if you swap your attack and cost of each unit in your deck and you do it again, then you're just back to where you started from, and that is a deck full of mediocre units, right? So that means I'm running just one copy in the market, but I'm also running 10 merchants to grab that. Fortunately, this card is Xenon, which is both time and shadow, which allows both time merchants, shadow merchants, and Xenon smugglers to grab that. I'm running 10. You could run as low as 8 or as high as 12, depending on what you wanted to do with that. I believe 10 is the okay value. Well, your game plan revolves around redrawing down to a hand that consists of at least 3 power and one of these 10 cards. Plain and simple. But people have been playing a lot of combo decks where all the combo pieces were in the market and they were running 12, 16 merchants even. So this is not exactly one of them, because there is only one combo piece that you want to play, and you want to play it on turn 4. So there is that. But when it comes to the whole creepy, crazy design of this, well, more meme deck than a try-hard deck, because this is not tier 1. Let me say that right off the bat. This is more like tier 3 meme. Anyway, so you have your Spire Shadows, you have your Evenhanded Golem. So everything works out, except you also have the Witching Hour in your deck, which is a 24 cost, 6 shadow influence requirement spell that says play 4 Pale Riders. And those are, if in case you didn't know, they have names. They have their whole lives. This is 4/4 Deadly Muertis. This is the 4/4 Flying Volan, the 4/4 Killer Ochi, and 4/4 Lifesteal Sangu. So those are the 4/4 24-hour Witching Hour 4 Pale Riders, or something. But also, when you play a non-power card, you get to reduce the cost of the Witching Hour by 1. Yes, so this is an even. This spell costs even. Then it's odd. Then it's even. Then it's odd. And then it goes crazy because you stop remembering. Well, usually you can just go through your void and what you have played and determine how much the Witching Hour costs. Or you could have a small cheat sheet if you already drew your Witching Hour. But the Witching Hour says that Evenhanded Golem draws you 2 cards if you already played Spire Shadows and if you played an even number of non-power cards in that game. Here's how it works. So, which is the first, the golem or the hour, the hen or the egg? If you have no odd cost cards in your deck, draw 2 cards. But when you play a non-power card, reduce the cost of this by 1. So the thing is, Golem's effect resolves first, which means if you know your Witching Hour costs an even amount, like 20 or 16 or something like that, then you play your Evenhanded Golem, then you draw 2 cards, then you turn Witching Hour back to an odd costing spell. So if you play Evenhanded Golem, you have to play something else before you play the second Evenhanded Golem that was obviously in the top 10 cards of your deck to begin with. Because that's how Evenhanded Golem decks work, right? Anyway, this is the whole craziness behind this deck. So a lot of stipulations. You have to play Spire Shadows, and you have to play an even amount of non-power cards to be able to draw cards with Evenhanded Golem. But that is not the that is more of a thought exercise, because, well, you can play Spire Shadows in a ton of different ways, including other colors, including Aramot's Machinations, including Crownwatch Press Gangs, other units, cool units like Colony Matron, or what was the other one? Karmic Guardian or Lumen Defender. Like, there's a ton of them, which after the swap cost, for example, 1 or 2, and are now suddenly like 5/5s or 4/4 flyer with endurance and lifesteal, and oh my goodness. Anyway, so let's go through the deck, but let me tell you what the cards do after you play Spire Shadows, because, well, let's not kid ourselves. If you not play Spire Shadows on turn 4, you're probably gonna lose the game. Anyway, so 4 copies of Evenhanded Golem, plain and simple, but not really in this deck, not really. 4 copies of Aurelian Merchant, the 0 cost 3/3 plus 1 max power. You may choose to swap a card from your hand with Spire Shadows in the market. Dune Phantom, the 0 cost 3/6 Flying Ambush. Sure, that's a nice stat line. Once again, even better than Sand Golem, the 0 cost 3/3.
Eager Offering, a 0-cost 3/4. At the start of your turn, sacrifice this to draw 2 cards, but it also blocks and kills some units, so this is very more than decent against aggro. 4 copies of Ebendune Smuggler, the 2-cost 3/2 Ambushing Merchant, that on summon you get to swap a card from your hand with a card in your market. And 2 copies of Corendon Merchant, the 2-cost 3/2 Shadow Deadly Merchants. So they work the same, almost. 4 copies of Azindel the Wayfinder, before he revealed himself, but after he bestowed his strange gift upon Vara, making her go a bit more crazy. The 0-cost 4/5 Double Xenon Mystic, +1 max power when another unit goes to a void, +1 max power. It doesn't have to be killed, can be milled, can be discarded, can be your opponent's, can be yours, doesn't matter. This gives you a ton more power, for example, to play his revealed form from your market. 4 copies of Waystone Infuser, the 2-cost 5/6 double time with warp, saying your power cards have warp. Now, if you thought Sandstorm Titan was OP, being a 4-cost 5/6 endurance, now this is a 2-cost 5/6 with warp. What else do you want? I mean, time has the best units, right? Right. And last but not least, 4 copies of Mystic Ascendant, the 4-cost 6/4 Mystic with Empower, permanently +2/+2, and you get to draw a card. I mean, this card was a powerhouse since the Empty Throne came out, since the game came out. It was slightly overshadowed, or rather heavily overshadowed by Grot of Stranger, that being a 6-cost 7/7, then a 6/6, saying when that attacks you get to draw 2 cards, then you get to draw 1 card, and even after those 2 nerfs, I believe Grot of Stranger is still more played than Mystic Ascendant in a lot of decks that have time. But for this one, this is Mystic Ascendant because this is only a 4-cost in this version. Also, if you draw some of these more, how should I put it, crappy cards before you play Spire Shadows, well, that's what you have your merchants for. You just swap those cards for some better cards in your market. And when it comes to the spells, we have 4 copies of Annihilate, the 2-cost Shadow Fast spell that kills a unit with a single faction. 4 copies of Aramod's Design, the 2-cost Slow Shadow spell that kills each unit with cost 2 or less. Now, this is the most problematic card when it comes to the whole deck design and deck building of this magnificent beast, because after the Spire Shadows swap, almost all your units die to Aramod's Designs. So why do I include it? Because this deck unfortunately loses heavily to aggro, especially if aggro goes first, especially if they have their turn 1 drop and their turn 2 drop. And this is your way of ensuring that you still have a way to get through the game. I mean, even later, if they decimate your big units, then you can just say, okay, so you die, everyone dies. Also works decent in the mirror match. I had one mirror match with another Spire Shadows deck, and then just Aramod's designed their whole board after their Spire Shadows came online. But after turn 2, usually this is the first card you're putting out to the market because you don't want to be killing your units, your own units, you're just grabbing your Banishes, Azindels, etc, etc. Next up we have 4 copies of Nahid's Distillation, the 6-cost time spell that draws 3 cards, but you may exhaust a unit to play this for 2 less. And remember, if you have 0-costing units, then it means that if you're running rather slow on board and you don't seem to have many ways out, you can still draw into 3 0-costing units to stave off the opposition, some of them being flying, ambush, or just hugely statted. So this is a very good draw mechanism aside from Evenhanded Golem and Waystone Infuser and Mystic Ascendant and all those smugglers and merchants. And last but not least, 4 copies of the Witching Hour. Yes, this deck is rather on the expensive side. It has 8 legendaries, main deck, 4 Witching Hours, 4 Mystic Ascendants, and 2 in the market, Xenon Temple and Soul's Rest. But if you have already memed out with Witching Hours, or you already played some Combri decks with Mystic Ascendants, then you're halfway done with collecting what is to be gotten for this deck. I mean, there's also Azindel the Wayfinder, which is a promo card from way back when. I mean, this came out before I started playing the game a year and a half ago, so I had to craft 4 of these as well. Anyway, as far as the power base goes, we have just 25, just your regular 25. You could also be running some petitions or seek answers or something like that, but I opted not to. Just focusing on 4 crests, 4 seats, 4 insignias, no banners, because I want as many non-depleted sources as possible. You want to go up to 6 shadow and 2 time for Waystone Infusers. And Azindel the Wayfinders. So yeah, I believe this is a rather decent combination with those seats and insignias coming into play depleted more often, non-depleted more often than not. And last but not least, we have our market with Spire Shadows being the first card you're grabbing from it. Followed up with Banish, the 3-cost Xenon fast spell that kills an enemy unit or relic with cost 5 or less. And this is your only way of removing opposing relics, so you have to be careful where you target this. 1 copy of Xenon Temple, the 5-cost double Xenon Sight that says when an enemy unit dies you get to steal it and put it into your void. And has a cute World Joiners agenda with a way to kill some units, to swap their stats, to draw a card, and to play a huge World Joiner. Azindel, Big Daddy, revealed. The 8-cost 7/7 double Xenon Radiant comes into play with 2 deadly unblockable Heliki, or however that's pronounced. But also this is a huge source of card advantage, especially when you're wide on the board, and you should be wide on the board in this deck. Because for each unit that hits the enemy player, you get to draw the top card of their deck and reduce its cost by 2. So cool and cooler. Last but not least, we have 1 copy of Soul's Rest, an 8-cost triple time spell with Voidbound, unfortunately. Take an additional turn after this one, but also you can decimate to put each unit into its owner's hand. Now, I did have a game where I went up to 50-something power with 2 Azindel the Wayfinders, but also you have a ton of 0-costing units, so this is your huge reset button. And it is also a cute fact because Aurelian Merchant, after Spire Shadows, costs 0. So if you get up to 8 power and you suddenly draw Aurelian Merchant, you can turn the game on its head because you're playing Aurelian Merchant for 0, you're grabbing Soul's Rest, you're playing it, you're decimating it, you're getting everything back to your hand, you're replaying that Aurelian Merchant, you can grab something else from your market like Xenon Temple or Banish or Azindel Revealed, and you're replaying your other 0-cost units like Azindel Wayfinder or Dune Phantom, and you're just smacking the opponent with your extra turn. So that is a huge stopper as well. Before Soul's Rest, this deck used to include in the market a copy of Pale Rider's Timepiece, and you're gonna see that in games 1 and 2 probably. Because those games were played with Timepiece being in the market, the third one with Soul's Rest here. Now this deck is very complex, it is very mathy, it is very like, well, words cannot describe it in theory. Let me just show you 3 games and then you will see what this is all about. And in this corner we have Calebovitsch playing Even Spire Hour, aka Shadows of the Spire Shadows, or Spire Shadows of the Spire. The first hand was redrawn because it didn't contain a merchant. The second one does, also has Nahid's Distillation and Ermot's Designs, and a lot of power, so that's very good. And yes, that's a cool thing that you either have to grab a sheet of paper, but you don't have to know your witching hour's total cost. You just have to know whether it's even or odd. So it's yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, or even odd, 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 even odd. And on turn 2, the opponent plays Lost Scroll in their Argenport deck, which means they're probably a control version. So that means on turn 3 we get to play Merchant and grab our Spire Shadows. Opponent plays Regent's Tomb on turn 3, and at least I didn't have Spire Shadows here yet, otherwise this deck is just done. So I mean, it revolves so much around that card that if you cannot play it on turn 4, that is just not a good way to get at things. Taking out Ermot's Designs because it looks like opponent is playing a control version of Argenport. Now they're just gonna do Lingering Influence. And now it's going to turn out that they are also testing some cards from the newest mini expansion because they're playing Lara's Fetius Advisor, a unit that allows them to play another piece of a side's agenda at the end of their turn, which in this case is giving Lara revenge. So sure, there is that. Mystic Ascendant. But first let's go for Spire Shadows, the namesake of the deck, and pass the turn. Now opponent plays Elias, and we will probably take a hit or two from Elias. They also have a Vara. And no, we need that power. We want to play Mystic Ascendant or the Heat's Distillation, one or the other. There's also the Witching Hour here, and I opt to go for Distillation over Azindel the Wayfinder, for example, and get a 0-cost Eager Offering, amongst other things, and 2-cost Xenon Smuggler. So let's go for that, and let's ambush them. And I'm thinking which piece of the puzzle to get, and the first one is going to be Xenon Temple, but you're going to see that in a couple of moments. So that's a Justice Sigil powering everyone up. And we can block the 3-4 with our 3-4. We take 15 down to 10. So we are very low on our health, unfortunately. But the opponent, fortunately, is down to 2 cards, which is quite beneficial for us. Hidden Road Smuggler as well, grabbing a card. But for now, we can just do EDS, take out Azindel to pasture, and get Xenon Temple. Now we're drawing 1 card and 2 more from Eager Offering getting sacrificed. And those are some cool cards indeed. So let's start with Waystone Infuser, because there might be a power card on top. And we don't want to lose a free warp-ish draw. Next, we could go for Aurelian Merchant, grab Azindel probably, and Xenon Temple. Fun thing about Xenon Temple that you're going to see in a moment is that in a matchup against revenge units, it is better than usual, because you're stealing the unit before the revenge goes off, which means what you're now going to see is we're killing Elias. It's gonna trigger revenge, but first it goes into our void and it triggers revenge, which means it is reshuffled back into the top 10 cards of our deck. That's such a brain burn. Opponent is thinking on what to do here, whether to attack with Vara or not. But they opt to go for Aramod's Designs, decimating most of my board, and they go after Xenon Temple, which means, well, yeah, I'm not going to block. Even if I block Vara, it dies. I don't want to just take a chance that the opponent has Vara's favor as well, so well, I'm just letting it through. And Turbo Revenge with Elias. Just play my Mystic Ascendant and be done with it. Okay, so they attack with Vara. I believe I block with Elias to get rid of that one. They're playing another Smuggler, and to mine and everyone's surprise, they're playing Harsh Rule now. Because they have Revenge. Alright, still can't get Azindel online. Still can't get Azindel online, and they get Lada, Svetia's advisor already. And Inquisitor Magto. Oh my goodness. Fortunately, I drew a non-depleted power source and can play Azindel revealed, which is going to draw us some cards from the opponent's deck. Maybe quite soon we can play the Witching Hour as well. Get down to 5. Taz with the Forbidden. Okay, the opponent has a huge board now. Hopefully we can draw some cool cards from them. Azindel the Wayfinder is a good card because it's a 0 cost. And we can steal some things from the opponent as well. Opponent goes down to 53. Okay, we get a power and we get Inquisitor Magto. So let's play Azindel and Inquisitor Magto of our own. And the power. And that's a 6th shadow as well, allowing us to play Witching Hour quite soon. For example, next turn. Now, I don't want big Azindel to die, so I'm just going to chump with small Azindel. Opponent is going to draw a card first, and then Revenge is activated for us and for them. Into Lost Scroll, sure. And another Macto. Now here is where I made a small timing mistake, because the play here is Eben Dune Smuggler, get Pale Rider's Timepiece, put it on a Zindel, attack their Macto, so they have it reshuffled with Revenge to the top of their deck and have a higher chance of grabbing it. As it stands, I opted to go the other way around and attacked first and then killed their flyer. Not gonna go for Witching Hour yet. Also, I can play the power because let's not kid ourselves, Eremot's designs are going out to the market. So there's the timepiece. Playing it on a Zindel. I'm thinking whether to play it on another unit, but in the end, a Zindel just gives me much more health. And can kill Macto, get up to 16. There we go, opponent. They have a Macto of their own. Guess who's back? Back again. Now, I thought for a moment of how to block here, whether to double block that to 4 and take 6 damage. And thank you, Beridan, once again for the raid in the past. But in the end, I went for just chump blocking the 2-4 and not receiving 6 damage. Another Lada. So next time they play a site, it gets 3 agendas off already. All in one turn. Anyway, let's attack with Halichi and this one. And let's steal some cards from the opponent. And those are going to be very cool cards, because the first one is, drumroll please, Macto with Revenge, which means we're going to draw a card from our deck, and we also grab Ikaria, First Reaper from them, and this is enough for the opponent, and, well, on to game number 2. Alrighty. This hand has a merchant, so we can keep it, and at least 3 power. Not much to be said here. We just want to play up until turn 3 and play Smuggler. Hopefully end of opponent's turn. Just in case. Just in case. Okay, another Azindel that we don't need. We just pass the turn here. Play it. Take out one of the Azindels. Get Spire Shadows. Hope the opponent is not holding up an Unseal or something like that. So I attack first. And then I opted not to go for Spire Shadows after all, because A, I want to draw more power, slightly more power. B, I was afraid that they have an Unseal somewhere there. Okay, that's a power. And in the end, yeah, I said, okay, shoot, I'm just gonna do it. I could have also played Nahid's Distillation, but then I'm just drawing bad cards usually. And it turns out the opponent didn't have that, they had Ice Bolt. And they're bolting their own unit as a ramp mechanism of sorts, apparently. In what looks like Kilo Reanimator. Ish-esque, maybe even, Steven. Alright, so here I could go for, well, just a Zindel to try to power up slightly. so that later I can go Waystone Infuser and maybe grab a power. And opponent is drawing cards and discarding a Zindel. Okay. And them discarding a Zindel is actually the thing that I said in the intro, where it doesn't matter if a unit gets killed. It just means that a unit is put into the opponent's void, and if they discard it, well, then our Azindel gets powered up as well. And hopefully they discard another unit. Yes, we go up to 7 power. And now we can start drawing the craziness. I had no idea whether I already played even or odd number of cards, so I did not know if Evenhanded Golem would draw me something or not. But it turns out 4 cards in the void, 2 cards in play. That is an even number of cards, which means yes, I can do this right now. I can also play that power from the top, get another Waystone Infuser, play Merchant, grab a Zindel or Xenon Temple or Pale Rider's Timepiece. I can still attack for 2, and that ramps up a Zindel anyway. So I want to play the Merchant, get designs out of here. And it's your turn, opponent, and suddenly we have 12 power on the board, and we are gonna play 2 more in a moment. In the meantime, opponent is playing Honor of Claws, discarding Falrauk. Sure, Distillation. That didn't matter much. Blight Moth, sure. And the Radiance. That doesn't matter much as well. And them milling us actually means that little Azindel is now giving us a ton of power, and we are up to 14. And we can play this from the top. I could have also played both Mystic Ascendants first and then went for it, but I was trying to go for Azindel and Xenon Temple. I mean, Big Azindel and Xenon Temple. And we can go for Killa. Anazindel, kill the 5/2. Little Azindel gives much more power. Sorry, just more power. And we can attack the opponent with all our dudes and dudettes. Steal some cards from them as well, thanks to Daddy Azindel. And that's a kilo. And I turned a Halichi into this because I forgot it had unblockable and deadly. I remember distinctly I thought I was going for Evenhanded Golem, but it turns out those were battle skills. I mean, if you're not running Kilo in a Kilo deck, I mean, I've not played Kilo a lot, so that eluded me for a moment, but instead of a 2/2 that's going to draw me cards, I got a 6/4 that's going to draw me cards, so I believe that's even better. Ikaria First Reaper took care of Big Zindel. Even-handed golem for the opponent is drawing them some cards, but I think this is closing in on them. Let's go Xenon Augury, get, well, a non-power, with those 2 power being put on the bottom. I have a ton of things I could be playing here. I opted to kill their Icaria. Sure, we can discard Distillation and Honor of Claws. Don't care about that right now. What I do care about is playing another Mystic Ascendant, you know, the cheaper one, going for Crest of Mystery, so we can scout before we draw those two cards. One is an Aurelian Merchant, the other is an Eager Offering, and we could go for Pale Rider's Timepiece, but that's not gonna overflow the board by much. Timepiece could get rid of one of their cards. I think we can get rid of this 1/5, yes, that's right. Let's change this into, forgot its shadow, and we have a Time Merchant, so, well, Banish works good anyway. And the opponent can just block 1/8 and 1/4, so yeah, we're dealing a ton of damage here. And we still have a ton of cards to work with, and a ton of power later on. I was thinking if I can kilo for something. And in the end I went for the other Ascendant. But I already played a power, but triple Ascendant should be decent enough. Also upped the power here. Power on the board, that is. And for the opponent, it's Vara Fate Touch, grabbing back a Zindel, which is grabbing two Halichi, which are grabbing a Zindel and something else, which is grabbing some more things. A Shade, even. But fortunately, the opponent is just on 2. So even with those cards they're stealing from us, hopefully they cannot do much here. And we can just swap the stats of the Shade, killing it. You know, like Bloodwolf does in Limited. And a quick count of our 9 units to opposing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units. Which means I want to draw a card. Or sorry, 3 cards even. Maybe one of them is going to be an Annihilate or something. Yes, I can Smuggler away the 0/5 Azindel, grab Pale Rider's Timepiece, Killer something. Yes, that's the way to go here, Caleb. Plus 20 max power. Yeah, so Smuggler, kill that, swap this for Timepiece. Play Timepiece without the Witching Hour. Killer Vara. And we have 2 more units than the opponent. So that's 9 to 7. So 2 units go through. And that's enough to win the game. Alright, let's get on to game number 3. And here we are in game number 3. This is the one where I put Soul's Rest in the market instead of Pale Rider's Timepiece. This is also a hand that needs to get redrawn because we only have 1 power, so there is that. This is not really like it. And sure, we have a merchant. We have a winner. So let's go Xena Insignia. And just a power. Opponent seems like they're playing from the colors Ixten, which is usually unitless. Genev Merchant. Well then, I'm afraid they're gonna play Royal Decree or something like that. So I'm opting not to go for the Merchant. Try to avoid that card. Or go Merchant and grab something else like Xenon Temple. Because we can theoretically play Xenon Temple next turn. And that is going to be a source of some advantage on the board for sure. But it turns out they went for Honor of Claws. Got a Fate card, which is usually either a Joe or a Jotun Hurler. Yeah, it was Zoe. Okie doke. So let's go for the Temple and grab a card. I believe Eager Offering is going to be slightly better than the Witching Hour. At least at this point. Without me having 17 more power. 16 more power, I mean. Sure, Wisdom of the Elders. Now I can scare that Merchant to get rid of its Aegis. Also play Shadow and play Eager Offering. Opponent, if he wants to kill the board, so be it. Also, they missed their 5th power drop, which is huge detriment for their board position or their whole game position when they're playing a control deck. But they're trying to dig deeper with Strategize, trying to get any and all power. Treasure Trove, 1 deeper. And still nothing. And no, I don't want to play Dune Phantoms. Or do I? I mean, I could play 1, give it +1/+1 and killer, start attacking the opponent. See guys, this is what happens if you do not play Spire Shadows on turn 4, as you should. Sear the site, yes, so we don't get World Joiner. And still nothing. Maybe here we can draw something. Eager Offering, Seed of Mystery. So just drawing into drawing. Attack. If they have Defiance, then so be it. Sure. I mean, we're just drawing cards anyway. Harsh Rule. Okay. Number 1. Oh, finally. Damn it. Yeah, got Seed out. Went for Spire Shadows. Almost went for Designs. Played this. And from what I believe, I have played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards. I have an 11th in play, so I have to play Dune Phantom first for Evenhanded Golems to draw me cards. So I have to play Dune Phantom, Evenhanded Golem, another card, Evenhanded Golem. Plain and simple. Alright, so we can go Golem. Golem, Golem, Golem. Play Wayfinder, because why not? Play Distillation as well. No, I want to play Distillation so that I can play Evenhanded Golem next. For even more cards. Play Shadow. I was thinking on what to do here. Do I play Merchant? Do I play a Zindel? But in the end, I wanted to go for something slightly different. And that is Soul's Rest next turn. And getting Witching Hour to be much cheaper as well. Also, we get to replay the golems. That is another fun factor. So the goal here is to draw more cards than unitless, right? Anyway, I wanted to a space because if opponent kills one of our units, then Azindel Wayfinder gets a buff on max power. That's 1. And 2, their unit gets exhausted. Sure. Now, I'm playing the 0 costs. I am playing Soul's Rest, and I went for a Decimate because I want to get everything back in hand, including those golems. Most of the cards in my hand cost 0. Anyway. Opponent's unit is just getting their Aegis taken off. And here we can go once again. Azindel, Dune Phantom, Golem. Okay. Dune Phantom, Aurelian Merchant, get the bad Dune Phantom out. Grab probably Daddy Azindel. Another one here. Take something out. No, I don't have anything good in the market. Take an additional turn. Play Big Daddy Azzy. Take 5 cards from the opponent. They're down to 4. Ooh, Risen. Okay, that's 3 out of 4 damage, but we need 1 more. So I went for Infuser to see if there's a power on top of my deck, but there is not. Evenhanded Golem to draw some more cards. Another Evenhanded Golem, sure. We can play a power, scout something, designs go to the bottom. Another Waystone Infuser, that's cool. I mean, opponent needs to kill the whole board right now. With another Harsh Rule or something like that, yes, exactly. But we can rebuild, we have the technology. So that's gonna be Infuser and Friends. But first, let's draw cards. Witching Hour costs 0 now. But I could just go for Evenhanded Golem now that we know that Witching Hour doesn't have an odd cost. Play the other Azindel because we can. And discard a power. One that doesn't matter. Sure. Well, opponent needs to swipe the board once again here. Yes. Sure. So be it. So we can go for Infuser and reload the board once again. Played Crest from my hand. Another Witching Hour is on top. So we're playing Witching Hour for 0. We're playing the Heat's Distillation off of... doesn't matter. And that's a Dune Phantom, that's cool. So let's just do a power play and play Witching Hour number 2. Because opponent needs to... or not? Okay. Opponent needs to kill the board. And then they're left with 4 power, more or less. And then I can Dune Phantom, attack them for 3, unless they have a Defiance. and then play Risen for the remaining 3 health. So those are the things I would like to be doing. Okay. Harshal, sure. And if the opponent goes down to 0 power, that's going to be even easier. Yes, so Dune Phantom and Risen lethal, double ambush. First, you're ambushed by a wall of dust. It's just an illusion. And then you get a huge arrow right here. Right on your Caleb. Anyway, that was game number 3. Let's head on back to the studio, talk about the deck some more. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, even Spire Hour, aka Spire Shadows of the Spire, aka Caleb is crazy again. This is more of a thought experiment of if we can get it to work. And as you saw in those 3 games, yes we can. But once again, this is not a top tier competitive deck. This is more in the meme category. It is very cool to play. You might want to make an easier version without Evenhanded Golems or without Witching Hours, obviously. You can go for other factions, for other mechanics. I mean, once again, you could go for Grunge Press Gank in green and have a lot of 1 attack units that turn into 1 cost units. You could go for Aramot's Machinations to get 1, 2, and 3 cost units from your Void. You could even go for something like Frontier Jitto and have all your 1 costing units have charge as well. But that's a ton of colors, and you would probably need something crazy like Unfamiliar Interloper to get all the factions to work, to all the influence to work. But as far as memes go, I believe the Johnny in me has been more than satisfied with Spire Shadows. Alright guys, this is going to be it for this deck check. Deck Jack is probably coming next week or sometime afterwards, unless they nerf Jack, which they probably maybe coulda, shoulda, woulda. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you're enjoying the show, remember, click on subscribe. And what else is there to say? See you next week. Calebovitsch out.